Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. And thank you for stopping by. And I have one hair that's standing up because, there we go. Let's put you over here. Nope. All right, well, we're not going to spend time on my hair. All right, so as you can tell from the title, I've decided to make a video about, this is going to drive me crazy, about the bus driver shortage. And a couple people have commented where I've commented it before about the bus driver shortage. And one of the things I actually want to talk about is this is not a new thing. That's probably the first point that I want to make. This isn't a new thing. In fact, I'm going to put a link to an article that came up in my Facebook feed. It was a really interesting article about how this has really started in like 2009, or it might have even been 2006, but that didn't surprise me. I've been driving a bus for 4 years. When I started in 2018, they were already offering incentives, sign-on bonuses, all kinds of stuff to get people to drive buses. So it's an ongoing problem, like a lot of the trades, because when people graduate from high school now, they're encouraged to go to college and not to go into the trades, unfortunately. Another problem, and it's kind of a sticking point with me, it's kind of stuck in my craw, as they say, is that we're considered unskilled labor, which I'm not buying. I had to do licensing. I had to go take a road test where I had to parallel park a bus. I consider that a skill, where I had to outline the engine of the bus. And then when I went for air brakes, I had to actually outline how air brakes work on comparison to ABS brakes. To me, that's all skill, right? So I'm not an unskilled laborer, but that's what bus drivers are considered. And part of that is the reason that there's a shortage, is nobody wants to be talked to when they put in this much effort, like they're unskilled labor, right? So I'm gonna give you a breakdown of why I think there's a bus driver shortage. So first of all, like I just talked about, you have to be licensed to do this. I had to go take a very specific CDL driver's test, a written, and then also a road test, right? Now the road test, I had to have a certain amount of hours before I even took it. I had to know things like how many feet away from a stop you're supposed to stop. I had to know parts of the engine. They just do kind of a pop quiz where they make you go over certain parts of the engine, not usually the whole engine, but certain parts of the engine. They'll ask you questions about it. And like I said before, I had to parallel park a bus. That was after I passed the written. I also had to do something it's called an alley dock, where basically they line up these cones that it's supposed to represent the sides of an alley, and you have to back up as if you were backing up into an alley in the city. It's another thing we had to do. All right, so there's all of that, right? So then if you're able to pass the written and pass the road test, you then will be fingerprinted by the federal government to see if you have ever committed a felony, and more specifically, a felony that involved a child or child endangerment, child, obviously, molestation. You then also have to pass a general background search, which is were you ever pulled over, did you ever lose your license in the past because you were an alcoholic, stuff like that, right? Then we also have mandatory drug testing where I work, and it's what they call blind testing. So like I'll just go in, I'll be working, and my boss will send me a text that says, after you get done your shift, go get a drug test. I have no warning. They're mandatory, right? So in order to drive a school bus in this country, at least in New Jersey, you have to pass the CDL test, written, and the road test. You have to pass, by the way, it's the FBI that fingerprints you, an FBI background check, a state of New Jersey state trooper sponsored background check, and random drug testing. Okay, now you've got all that, you've done all that, and then you start to go to work. Now, driving a school bus, and I've had lots of jobs over the years because basically I just went wherever I could make money. That's where I went and I worked, right? This is possibly the most interesting skill set I've ever had. Not only do I need to know how ABS brakes work, how air brakes work, what the PSI of the air brakes is supposed to be, when it's safe, all of that stuff. I also need to know how to talk to a 5-year-old without making them have a meltdown if they're like touching the person that sits in the seat with them. I need to be able to relate to a teenager enough to talk to them. Every year, we get special training in very specific subjects. We get training in how to spot child abuse. Do we have a kid who's getting on, and neglect also. Do we have a kid that's getting on dirty clothes frequently, lots of bruising, things like that? We need to know the signs of suicide. So we need to see, are any of our teenagers, are they exhibiting these signs of suicide? We also need to look for signs of any type of abuse, bullying, sexual abuse. So we need to keep our eyes and ears open when it comes to, does a kid on our bus not want to sit near another kid on our bus? Is there something going on with these two? Like stuff like that. And it's all very subtle. It's not stuff you can really be taught in a book. You just kind of pick up on it, So you have to have all that. You have to do all that. And then here's the kicker. When you see these ads like, bus drivers here make $25 an hour. Okay, that's great. That district may only have a 2-hour-a-day shift. So you're actually making $50 an hour. And it might have no benefits. And it might have no pension. Right? So where I work, I don't make that much an hour, but I'm guaranteed to be paid for 6 hours a day, which I almost do. I mean, I'm technically working from 1:30 to 4:30 and from 6 in the morning till 9 in the morning. So that afternoon shift, I'm usually done by 4:15. But at any given time, if I had to, say I had to go drop off a child whose parents were not home the first time I went to the house, and I had to circle around the block and it took me more time. Or in some cases, if the parent never shows up, I have to take the child back to the school. And it can eat into that 15 minutes that I have. So that's why it's there. Another thing, I have full benefits where I work, including dental and vision. I also have a pension plan because we're Teamsters. So little things like that. But these are the reasons that I think there's a bus driver shortage. You have to be capable of living off of an income that's only, like in my case, 6 hours a day. You have to be able to relate to children and like children. That's another big important part of the job that they don't advertise. You have to be able to like children because you are going to be with about every day I'm with 84 children a day. Twice a day I'm with 84 children, right? I have 24 in my elementary and I have about 60 in my high school, middle school run. You have to be able to relate to the kids and you have to be able to like them. And then there's everything else. I have to deal with people who flip me off because they don't want to stop and I'm beeping the horn at them because they're trying to pass me and I have the red, stop sign out and they're flipping me off. I have very occasionally had parents yell at me. I haven't had it too much. I've had parents get snippy with me over usually stuff that's their fault. I'll give you a for instance. I had a parent come up to me one afternoon and she was like, was there a problem this morning? And I said, what? She said, well, you didn't stop. I said, well, she wasn't at the bus stop, which is in the front of their house because she's in first grade, and your door was closed. And she said, oh, well, we were about to walk out the door. So by the way, you also have to be psychic to be a bus driver because you have to know that the parents are about to walk out the door. So of course I didn't stop at this kid's house because she's not out there and the door's closed. No signs of life is what I call it. So you have to deal with things like that. And, just on top of everything else, it can be physically a kind of exhausting job. I pump my own gas. I check my own oil. I check the fluids on the bus. They're kind of physically demanding things. I don't have to put air in the tires or anything, but I do have to check the tires. So you have all of that. And then in some places, people are getting paid $15, $16 an hour to drive a bus. So they have to do all that, maybe put up with parents, maybe have no health insurance and maybe only work 4 hours a day. When I started, I worked 4 hours a day and at $15 an hour, and that was in 2018. So yeah, very different. So when you take all of that into account, you're kind of crazy to be a bus driver because it would just be easier for me to just go work in an office somewhere. and do data entry. I could probably make the same amount doing data entry. I'd probably get 8 hours. I'd probably get health benefits, But there's a lot of freedom to this job too. I have a 4-hour break every day, which allows me to work on my Etsy shop, which has been doing really well lately. So I'm bringing in extra money from my Etsy shop. You get summers off if you want them. I work in the summer, but not everybody does. You get all these holidays off. I'm going to get like almost 3 weeks off for Christmas. It's going to be fabulous. I love it. Things like that. It's great for working moms because you're basically on the same schedule as your kid. And I know in my district, if your kid's in school, you can actually put them on your bus if you're a bus driver, which is great for, a working mom. So there are lots of reasons that this is a great job, but there's a lot of reasons why there's a shortage. For me, the biggest thing I really think is having a pool of people that can pass the test, that can pass all the scrutiny, all the background checks, and then also can pass all the drug tests is a huge thing. I think that's the biggest thing. I think that's the issue. You have a lot of people that smoke pot now, which we're not allowed to smoke. Even if you have a card for it, you're not allowed to smoke pot. I think it's things like that. But anyway, that's why I think there's a bus driver shortage. So in the meantime, I've done no sewing, which I really miss, and I need to get back to it. So we'll talk about that in the next video. But until the next video, like, subscribe, comment, and leave some comments about what you think the deal is, and I'll talk to you in the next video. And I hope you're warm wherever you guys are, and you're having a great day. Bye.